Alright, what is happening, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you an editing tutorial of how I did this thing right here. Okay, now these are called stereoscopes, and if you don't know what a stereoscope is, it's a fancy term for basically like 3D images, also known as GIFs, and they just go back and forth. It's a really cool effect. I think the artist Masa used them for his album cover, which is kind of how it got popular, and now it's been a super huge trend in like streetwear and fashion photography. And the reason I had to learn to do this was because a dance company at school was wanting to use stereoscopes for their next publicity for their upcoming show. And so I was looking at tutorials online trying to figure out how to do this, and there were so many videos that were just complex, unnecessary steps, when in reality it's not hard at all. I'll show you the fastest and most efficient way to do it, because I had to do at least 30 of them within a week or so. Alright, if you guys want me to do more tutorials, please drop a comment down below, subscribe for more photography videos, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Alright, so right now I'm editing on a MacBook Pro 15-inch with the touch bar. This is the newest space gray version, and it's been a really great laptop for editing purposes and for what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so first off, before the editing process even begins, there's a very specific way you have to take the picture in camera in order to get this specific effect. Now, there are a couple cameras out there, they're a little bit more vintage or very expensive in the $1,000 range, that have 3 separate lenses, which will take 3 sequential photos, and it gives it that stereoscopic effect. When in reality, all you have to do is grab a camera, right? If you're shooting portraits or landscapes, it doesn't really matter. And then we did this literally dozens of times, and it took a while to get it the exact way that we wanted, trial and error. But we found that the best way to do it was with a fast shutter speed. You're gonna shoot click, click, click. Now, the most important thing is you have to keep your X and your Y axis very stable as you take the picture, because afterwards when you edit, you're gonna have to be layering it. And if the photos are like this way or this way, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be able to get a smooth stereoscope. Use a fast shutter speed so that you don't get any motion blur or camera shake in your photos. And we found that the best way to do it was with the burst mode. So you're gonna go ch-ch-ch. And to be honest, you don't even have to do just 3 photos. What we found was that just going with like 3 or 4 or even 5 photos will give you a little bit more options, so that you can choose the first 3 or the second, third, or the last third, or whatever it is when you go into your editing program. Keep in mind that composition is still really important. Your subject has to be super still, cannot move at all, or it will ruin effect. And the biggest thing is that the subject should be following the lens with their eyes. So as the camera moves, you're going to be looking at the camera each photos. Okay, now the applications that you're gonna need are pretty simple. You're just gonna need Lightroom, Photoshop, and possibly After Effects if you want to add a little bit more flair to your stereoscope. So the first thing is, when you go into Lightroom, like, these are all the photos that were taken from the shoot. We did a lot of group shots, single shots, things like that. But then when you come into this, I'll show you. This is the first picture, the second picture, and the third picture. See how there's very little minute movements? 1, 2, 3, 1. And even when you go back and forth, you can start to see the effect. This one's a little bit better. I also forgot to mention that the background of your photo is also very important. Usually when you're taking portraits, you want to be using a low aperture, but in order to get a depth of field that doesn't seem so blurred out, you kind of want to use a higher aperture, something around like f4 or f3.5, so that the background is still visible from your subject. Your subject also can't be too close to whatever the background it is. So something like this works really well because the fence is still far away from the subject. So I did mention you want to keep your camera super steady on the X and Y axis, but as you see here, there is a little bit of movement just between the photos, which is okay because you can fix that in Photoshop. So once you have all your photos edited, we're gonna go into Photoshop. Now let me show you what the final product is gonna look like. And this is all done in Photoshop, no After Effects or anything like that. So now you're gonna take your 3 photos. We recommend 3 or 4. 3 actually works decently. And then import them into Photoshop. Now you click check on the first photo, and then your second photo is going to appear right on top. Now the important part is you're going to go to your opacity and drop it down to somewhere around like 30-35%. Zoom in just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So since we dropped down the opacity, you can see that the second layer on top of the first layer, and what you want to do is match it up as closely as you can. So what I found was that the eyes are kind of the easiest to line up, so something like that. Press OK, And then once again, you're gonna have to change your opacity to the same thing for your third layer and just layer it on top. Boom. That's kind of a sloppy job, but see how the subject's face is still all in the same exact spot, but the background is what's moving, and that's the most important thing. Now, to give you a better idea of how you can do it and utilize it to your own workflow and whatever project you're going to be using on, essentially the idea is that each image is going to be a single frame in an image sequence, meaning that the first image is only going to be 0.2 seconds, the second is going to be 0.2 seconds, the third, and so on and so forth. And what it does is it goes 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and it just loops that, so it goes like that. Now you're going to click this button right here, which is going to duplicate your second screen frame. And then it's the same exact thing. So right now, only the first layer is visible, but you're going to click the eyeball here and then just switch it to your third one. And then duplicate that again, and then change it to your third one, and then turn the second one off, and then duplicate it once more. And this one's going to be back to the second one. And since Photoshop is automatically going to make it an image sequence, it's going to go back and forth, so you don't have to repeat the first one. So when you press play, it looks something like this. Now that looks okay for now. And the reason this stereoscope itself works pretty well is that the background is really isolated from the subject, and being on that corner gives it a little bit more of depth of field. Okay, so now that you've adjusted the layers, you're going to press C on your keyboard and then just crop off the white edges so that you get a little bit of cleaner image. Just do that for each one. Now down here you'll see a drop down menu which indicates your frame delay time, meaning how much time is going to be separated between the first, second, third, and fourth photo. Okay, after much trial and error, I found that 0.2 is generally a good place to start, and then from there you can tweak it depending on how fast your camera was actually rotating while you're taking the photo, how smooth you want the image to be. If you want it to be a really glitchy effect or more of a slow shutter effect, then you can change it based on your preferences. And then this menu right here, you're just going to click forever so that it just keeps looping like a GIF. Now in order to export it, the way I did it was go to your drop down menu and then click save for web, meaning that's going to create it into a GIF. And then right here you have the option to do that, and basically just click done and it'll render out a GIF for you. If you are using this for a video, then you're going to have to export it as a video file, as something like an MP4 or MOV file. Okay, so once again you're just going to drop your first picture in. Second one, you're going to drop down the opacity, zoom in, match up the eyes as best as you can, click OK. Third one, drop down the opacity again, and then change all your opacities back to 100. Now if you don't see the timeline at the bottom, what you have to do is go into Window and then press Timeline, and it should make a sequence for you. Change this to something like 0.2 seconds, duplicate. Now if you find that your stereoscope isn't working, the problem might be that all of your layers are visible. So once again, deselect all of them except the first layer, and then make sure that they're also ordered correctly. So check your file number, so you want to go 9563, 64, 65 so that they went in that sequential order. And then duplicate this once again, check to your second frame, duplicate it again, third frame, second frame, and boom. Once again, just crop off the excess white in your photos, and boom, you have a really nice simple GIF. Now for the publicity shoots, in order to get the show name, the dance company, the dates and times and things like that, we did use After Effects to add those extra layers on, have the reel going to the REEL, REAL, switching back and forth. That was really simple, but for most of your guys' purposes, you probably won't need that much in depth. You just want to make a simple stereoscope. So there is that. And the reason we edited the photos this way was that stereoscopes are a little bit more grunge, retro, vintage. So you want that grainy aesthetic. So I edited these in Lightroom, added a little bit of grain, and that's what you have there. Alright, that about wraps it up for this tutorial. I hope this was a quick and simple, easy way to show you guys how to do the stereoscopes, because they're a super cool effect when used with any type of photo project that you can think of. That's it for this, and I'll see you guys next time.